what if you really think someone loves you and you cannot forget about that person? Well, this life is about 3 reasons why people might mistake abuse for love. And let me start with a little story. So, one of the people I know is very close with someone. She's been his girlfriend for years and years. And let me say straight away, this is not a story on its own, because this happens more often. So we are used to having women being abused, especially physically abused, but mentally, that's a whole different story. And so we know that the relationship isn't good. I mean, smashed glasses, gossip, anger, never saying sorry, at least not on the partner's end. And still, yeah, but, and that's the thing, the yeah, but. So when we get into a relationship with someone who usually is the abuser, as in is the abuser, but usually is a narcissist, we don't see it straight away. It's about, at some point, recognizing the signs. But if we don't see the signs, then what? So they can be very charming. And that's why quite often we miss what's going on. And especially to the outside world. If someone says, he is the one, nah, that can be true. She is the one, no, I don't believe it. You know, those people are the most charming people. They know how to talk to other people. They know how to smile, and hence people just don't, they just don't believe it. And that makes it very hard, because what happens when you're not being believed, then you start doubting yourself. Okay, so here's this person, and oh my God, the other one is so charming, and it's so much fun. And pretty quickly, this person precisely knows what to do in order to charm her friend, her boyfriend, her partner. And that's where everything goes haywire, because she knows, she basically, she wraps him around her little pinky. And once you've fallen in love, it's quite hard, especially when you finally get what you want, to let go. But of course, at some point, there are some little cracks, there are some fights, there are some things. But then, of course, there's the, oh, but I love you so much. And every time that pattern repeats more and more again. And here's the thing. What if you've been lacking certain things growing up? Maybe being hugged, maybe being loved, an embrace of some sort. Then it's going to be so hard to let go. And that's it. They know what the other person needs in order to stay. Well, a number of you might say, yeah, well, if someone raises a hand at me, but what if the person doesn't even raise a hand? What if it's just a mental thing that's going on? What are you going to do then? So still, other people would say, well, if someone keeps yelling at me, you know, one moment it's nice, and the next moment I hear, yeah, well, I didn't actually like this or that or the other, or have you ever looked at yourself, or, well, I don't trust you. That's hard. That's hard for most people to deal with. And at some point, most of us, not all of us, but most of us, might say at some point, like, you know what, let's forget it. I don't do it good ever. So what's the use in staying? And that's when, in a normal relationship, you talk about things. You talk about what's going right, what's going wrong. You might go to a therapist. And please know that there is Well, yeah, there are books by now and manuals about how to get along and how to communicate well, but you don't get taught in school how to communicate well. If we're lucky, we know that we have to use 2 words: yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. But that's about it, and even that seems to be lacking nowadays. So what happens when you get into relationship, especially, hey Terry, how are you? When you want to join, just let me know. Then I'll send you the link if you want to. I'm talking about why people don't recognize that they are in an abusive relationship and they actually consider it love, which I believe has a lot to do with their upbringing and what they are lacking. So if you want to join, just let me know and I'll post the StreamYard link. You can come on. So, like I said, there is not a thing that we actually learn. We have to learn it from other people by talking to our friends, maybe going to a counselor, maybe going to a therapist. Nowadays, I do believe that the shows on television also show us a few things, but in the average relationship, when you realize like, oh, we don't get along, normally we get some good conversations, and one says, okay, I could improve this, the other one says it, and still I am aware that even that is something that not everyone does. But when we go to a relationship dealing with narcissists, there is no I'm sorry, there's no let me improve things. And when they might go and say, let's go to a therapist, for instance, then it's probably for show. And it's their way of being able to say, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like whatever it is. And then we get back to the question, so why stay? Why stay if you're not happy? Why not give one another the chance for a better life? Well, of course, there are always circumstances. I mean, if you are coming from 2 households and then you are forming 1 household and there's no other house available, yeah, that's going to be a problem. But still, then you don't say, I love the person so much, realizing that something is happening. But when someone is constantly putting you down, that's a whole different story. And that's what we're talking about. And no one should have to stay at a place where people are putting them down. Well, in this case, I was talking about 2 partners. But what if you're a kid and you want to leave your parental house? And they say, no way, that's not going to happen. Or they, you have a few minutes. Okay, yes, let me send you the link right now. Okay, there we go. So lots of time people stay at the house because of fear, and that also involves the kids. So Terry is going to join me, which is exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing Terry. Always cool. I'm expecting Joe too, by the way. I don't know what happened. Maybe she fell asleep. Wouldn't be the first time, which is good, by the way, because in the past she couldn't sleep at all. So, but the fear of going away and not knowing what's to be expected, not knowing who to go to, I think that's one of the major things why people don't leave. They have no comparison, and that's it. Especially when your world is made smaller and smaller time and time again, then who do you talk with? Who can tell you what's normal and what's not? So that's going to be, and that's one of the things that is a telltale when there you go. Hello, Terry. So
hey, how's it going?
Well, I'm in a hotel room. I'm going to help someone out tomorrow, and I have to get up really early. So I thought, like, let's go here early. So I brought my microphone with the audio cable, and then guess what? The wrong plug.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, so I can't use it still.
I've done that. I've bought plugs and they're like the wrong ones. It's like, oh, I got to take that back. I don't want to go back. That's abuse in and of itself right there. The stores are abusing us by selling us the wrong crap.
Well, I've taken the wrong things with me, so I'm to blame. But I actually thought that I checked it out before I left. So I was like, I'm going to do it all good. So you heard what I was talking about. What's your take on why people could mistaken a relationship for a loving one instead of one where they are hopefully just mentally abused, but with some bad luck also physically?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's different levels of abuse. You know that. I mean, with people that you've talked to, you know that there's physical abuse, psychological abuse, emotional abuse, all these different levels. At the end of it, don't mistake abuse for love, because it's that tough love that it feels like. And when you get some of that tough love, it can feel like abuse, and it's like, why are you doing this and why are you doing that? Look, at the end of the day, you need to sit down and have a conversation. If you cannot clearly identify the things that are bothering one another, then that in and of itself, you're abusing yourself, because you're jumping to premature conclusions. And that's called self-abuse. We talk about psychological, we talk about emotional, we talk about self-abuse. And it's one of those things to where you don't know what you don't know until you have that conversation. Say, hey, I really don't like it when you do this. I don't like it when you do this. This is what I feel that you are doing, and this is how it's affecting me. And whenever you have that conversation, that's when you're able to open up. And when you can open up, then you can understand from a different perspective of, one, the things that you're saying, the things that you're doing, how that makes you feel. And the thing is that if you really love one another, you're not going to dive too deep into things that are saying, because look, I've been with my wife for 28 years. I've only really ever sat down and had like 2 conversations with her that was like, hey, we got to talk, twice in 28 years. And those were some tough times, but you know what? It wasn't one of those things to where it wasn't abuse. It was, look, I'm going to give you a little bit of tough love at the moment because we need to work this out. We need to talk. We need to communicate. We need to come up with a plan of action. So that a way that when we leave this conversation, you're good, I'm good. We have a plan of action and we move forward. We put whatever it was behind us. And I think that a lot of people tend to hold on to some of that emotional trauma or abuse or whatever label, they're all labels. It's labels. So whatever labels you want to put on those things, it really comes down to what that label means to you. And, for me, when I was growing up, believe me, I've faced physical abuse. My dad used to kick the crap out of me. But you know what? It made me a tougher person, but it also made me think about where I've been and where I'm going, because I've been there. I've faced that physical abuse, that emotional abuse. It's like, girls make your legs weak. You don't want to date girls. All these, that's emotional abuse. It's one of those things to where now it's like, man, I don't want to go date a girl. It's going to make my legs weak. The things that you say has an effect on the other person. So once again, there's a lot that we can unpack with this, but I only have a few minutes, but those were some of my initial thoughts on the topic.
Well, I love what you said about the conversation, and especially you come out after such a conversation with a plan of action, and also about looking back at things. And that, I guess that's the whole difference between knowing that you're in a relationship where you're going somewhere because you talk to one another, you explain what's going on, and then you say, okay, so what are we going to do about this? And then you're going to work on it. And it's not about getting back, but you did this and you did that. No, we said we are going to start with a clean slate. And maybe, of course, some things need changing, but there's this plan and you do it together. And I think that's the whole difference when it comes to doing things together. So did you, I heard what you said about your dad, but do you believe that your dad did so out of love?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
And that's the whole difference. There's a difference between you get stronger and they really mean it well, and then there are the others who are totally disrespecting the other ones, and you can see it. I mean, if I look at you, I see someone who's confident, you know what you want, you are an influencer, you help out other people, so you teach them too. And then there are those who are like, oh my god, I don't even dare to leave the house, because if my parent is going to say I need to do this, that, or the other, or the partner is going to say do this, that, or the other, then oh my god, that. And I guess there's such a big difference in recognizing this. So if only people could get out of this live session how to recognize the difference. And I think you said it spot on. It's like that plan. So what else would you say for people in order to be able to recognize the difference?
So physical abuse, I mean, that's pretty cut and dry. It's like if I punched you in the face right now, that would be physical abuse, kind of a thing. Now you got emotional abuse, and that's making somebody feel guilty about certain things. And that's when you really kind of poke and jab at people. You're not really physically abusing them. You're emotionally abusing them. You're holding things over their head and making them feel bad about the decisions that they're making. And I truly believe that if you love someone, you're not going to do that. You're not going to make the person feel bad about a decision that they made. Look, at the end of the day, there's decisions that you make and there's consequences from the decision that you make, but you should never make somebody feel bad about the decision that they made. It's one of those things to where if you saw something from a different perspective, do not emotionally abuse your partner. Let them know from your perspective, hey, this is what I feel that you did. This is what maybe you could have done, or maybe you were supposed to do, whatever the case may be. And you've heard me talk about this framework before. Here's what you did. Here's what you were supposed to do. This is what went right. This is what I feel that you can improve upon. And here's a plan of action on how you can improve upon those things. And then maybe we can revisit this conversation at a later date. That's effective communication, but it's two-way communication. At the other end of that is you will never let the other person take ownership on things unless they give you the plan of action. I don't want to give you a plan of action. I want you to take ownership in that, and you tell me what you're going to do. This is what I feel. This is what I see. This is how I see that you can improve upon it. Now, what is your plan of action? And if you need help, then we can kind of crosstalk and communicate that. But I want you to take ownership of that.
Yeah, that's true. So people, what we want to see is that people actually say, okay, what are we going to do to improve it? And that they look at themselves as an individual. What can I do? What can I change? You cannot ever say it's just you. No, it's two people. That's why it's a relationship. And if someone actually does things to hurt you, and that's the thing. Don't make excuses for the other one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And there's a difference between empathy and sympathy. There truly is. And I think that when you have that empathy for someone, you're able to put yourself within their shoes, because, the thing is that we're not all perfect. I don't think that I'm perfect. There's things that I do well. There's things that I do right, but I'm not perfect by no means. And it took me a long time to understand how to receive feedback, because I used to get that little bit of feedback and I would get pissed, man. I would get upset. I'd be like, I don't want to hear no, and I would get upset about that. And it took me a long time to learn how to listen so that I can understand. And when I listen to understand, I can take action in a more appropriate way in order to be understood.
So would you say that a relationship, whether it's with your partner or maybe with your parents, basically can be compared to a relationship at the working place, as in it's work and it's about, working on it, literally.
Mm-hmm. So that's different types of relationships. So you got your spouse, saying I've been with my wife for 28 years. We'll be married for 27 years in January. And that's a different relationship. A relationship with my mother, my father, those are different relationships. Relationship with, friends and family, those are different relationships. Relationship with coworkers and peers, those are different relationships. I wouldn't treat somebody at work the same way that I treat my mom or my dad or my wife or my kids. We work together. It's a professional environment. Yeah, we can kind of laugh and joke around. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I was in a meeting yesterday, and I paused. I had to pause for a second because we were in the middle of a meeting, and I had one person talking to me over here, and I had one person talking to me over there, and I paused. And I had my boss look at me, and he called me by my name. He goes, Terry. And I didn't say anything. I didn't respond. I paused. And he said it again. He goes, Terry. He goes, are you all right? Yes. I was like, I'm pausing. I got you talking to me over here, and I got you talking to me over here. Just because I got two ears, it doesn't mean I can't hear you in this one and you in this one. They didn't like that. But I got my point across because I had two people talking to me at once. I was like, okay, now if it's my turn to speak, I do have something that I want to say. But it took me a long time to be able to take that pause and understand that this person meant well. This person meant well. They just both didn't want to give in at that particular moment in time. Now, at the moment, my ears was taking a beating. Okay, they were taking a beating, and I couldn't hear either one because I had two people competing for the same conversation, trying to say two different things. Now, oftentimes in a relationship, we can feel that way. We can feel like we're being overwhelmed and inundated with all the things that this person's saying, I want, I need. You got people that want, you got people that need, and then you got people that desire. Want, need, and desire are three completely different things within any type of relationship. And oftentimes, whenever you don't get what you want, you know what I'm saying? You might have everything that you need, but you're not going to get everything that you want.
Yeah, true.
You know, and then that's where it comes down to the desire part. And this is how I want to tie that one in. And that's the desire for respect. That's the desire for respect. And the thing is that if you respect one another, you're going to respect their time, their space, their energy, and you need to know when to take some of that and when to give some of that. And oftentimes when you find yourself in an abusive relationship, they don't know how to do any of that.
Yeah, the respect is what's lacking. I do believe, though, that when you're used to working with other people at your job, that you do have maybe more skills which you can take home, because there are always some sort of training on how to communicate more effectively.
Yes.
But then again, I can also understand that when you get home, you're not at your job. Talk normally, you know.
Yeah.
There are some things which I think are mutually in the same place that you can use on both accounts. But it's what you said. It's about the respect, and I do believe when you talk about wants, needs, and desires, that maybe the desires might be specifically that one thing why people actually stay in a relationship, because they've missed out on those desires.
Mm-hmm. Look, let me put it to you like this. What people come for and what people stay for are two completely different things, but those things can often change as well too, because what makes a person stay, that's different for everybody. But if you don't know why you're staying, you won't want to stay.
No, that's good. That's a good one too. Yeah, I totally agree. I love that. But yeah, it's true. Normally a relationship evolves. It starts maybe with, oh, you've got something, you're doing something that I've never seen before, or what I really want. And then, of course, normally you grow older together. And then the things that you really wanted back in the days, maybe not so much anymore. And there's more love, there's respect, there's and that's the one thing you reminded me of. It's about nurturing one another. It's about, okay, how can I help you grow? Because I want you to succeed too. And I think that particular thing makes all the difference, the respect and really wanting the other to be happy.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you don't know what each other's goals are, you can't support them. And that's where a conversation comes into play. I'll give you a great example. Both me and my wife, we're in our 50s. I've got a college degree. I've got certifications. I've retired from the military. I still work in a contractor job, and I do a lot of entrepreneurial type stuff. We're good. We're totally solid financially. We've been around the world. We've done a lot of things. We have two kids that now we're raising and bringing up and everything. We're good. I mean, we're good to go. But now we're both at a point to where, okay, we're both 50. We got our kids, our first kid's about ready to be into high school. And we're still striving for things. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with striving for that. I don't really need anything. I don't need another college degree. I don't need another job. I don't need all this other stuff. But I'm still striving for things because that's that entrepreneur within me. That's the winner within me. I want to succeed. I want to go to the next level, whatever it is. My wife's the same way. She's trying to get back into college and do her degree, and she's trying to up level her career. She doesn't have to, but she wants to. It's one of those things that even 50 years old, she's making those decisions, but it's my job to support that. What is your decision? I want to go back to school. Great. What does that mean? That means you leave your job. I'm the primary source of income. So now we don't have two, well, we've got multiple streams of income, but we're minus one of them. So, I supported that decision. So for the last like 3 years, she's been back in school. And I support that. It's like, okay, how can I support that? What is it that I need to do? I know that I need to cover down because when she's in school, I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, I'm taking care of the kids, picking them up, I know what my role is. And I think that a lot of times when you do not clearly define your roles in the beginning, your roles will be confused when the crap hits the fan, or when things shift, or when things change. And that's where, once again, communication is key. If you don't know your role, then you need to pause. You need to pause and have that conversation to say, hey, I noticed that things are shifting, things are changing. Is there any way that I can help? I can support. What do you need help with? What can I do? Once again, it's that communication that helps out. And a lot of times that doesn't happen. I've had that happen to me many times. It's like, well, I guess I'm cooking dinner tonight. Well, I guess I'm cleaning today. Well, I guess I'm thinking, but at the end of that, it's knowing it's being flexible enough to know that your roles can change. And I think that so many people are so rigid with how they want things to be that they can't be anything else other than what they feel that they are. And that's ego based. That's ego based right there. 100%. When you put your ego in the way, you will never be flexible enough to be able to provide assistance when, if, or as needed.
Well, it's like you said, it's the communication, it's about the expectations, but it's basically, if one wants something, you're not going to do something which makes it impossible for the other one to do. You're going to look together like, how can we make this happen? And I assume that when at the end of the day, when you've done the cleaning, she tells you thank you, and that she appreciates what you're doing. And it's that little thing from it's expected, and no one ever says thank you, or I'm so happy that you do it for me, versus you are being appreciated, and the other knows, okay, you're doing this for me, and I know you have like a ton of roles at the same time in order for me to be able to do whatever it is. But there's the respect, and there's the appreciation for another. And that's, I think, the whole thing. And getting to something about the communication, what I noticed was that people who might be abused, they don't dare to speak up. They just don't dare to speak up. They don't dare to be open. And I've noticed that it's easier to lie to their surroundings and also to the partner, because and not because they want to tell lies, but because they don't trust that they will stay. And that's the one thing. You've been with your wife 28 years almost, so you know that whatever happens, you are going to figure it out.
Yeah, so there's three different things that you hit on right there. One is expectation management, two is appreciation management, and three is lies versus open communication. So let's touch on expectation management first. And I think that when you clearly identify expectations, and look, the thing is that expectation management can be blown out of proportion. You can get someone to say, "Oh, you expect that of me?" Yeah, I expect to be, you to do, there's people that are like that. I don't expect anything from my wife. I'm appreciative of the things that I get from my wife. And there's a difference between that. There's a difference between expectation management and appreciation management. I appreciate the things. I appreciate whenever, I can get help. I appreciate when I can get love. I appreciate when I can get those things. I don't expect none of it. And I think that that's the thing. I expect them 3 meals a day. I'm not going to go into deeper conversations, but I expect that once a week. And you know what I mean by that? There's people that have that conversation. I expect it every single night, whatever the case may be. And then there's lies versus open communication. And I think that when you have open communication, it doesn't leave any room for lies or misunderstandings or any of that stuff. It's like, hey, I know when I walk out the door, I say, hey, I'm going to the store. I'm going to go get anything. Do you need anything? That hits different when you put it back on that person, because she may want something. I may want something. If she leaves the store or leaves the house and say, hey, I'm going to go to the store. Do you need anything? That right there, I appreciate that. I don't expect it, but I appreciate it. And then that's where people fall into the category of lies versus open communication. Because if you don't say where you're going when you go out the door, it's like, where are you going? Who you going with? What you doing? It leaves the door open for misunderstandings. And it's one of those things. I don't really care. I've been with my wife 28 years. She's a grown woman. If she wants to leave the house and go somewhere, I've walked upstairs and she's gone before. Okay, you know what I'm saying? She's a grown woman. I'm not going to mess with that. She's got a phone. I've got a phone. If we really need each other, we can contact one another. But there's people that literally will just abuse like their person verbally, maybe physically too. You didn't tell me where you were going. How come you didn't tell me where there's people that are like that. I don't care if I walk upstairs and my wife's gone. I was like, well, I guess she's gone. Okay. Got the house.
Yeah, but that's trust. And I do believe that in a lot of relationships where there's abuse of some sort, there's no trust. That's the whole problem. Because when there's trust, you don't have to say, you went out and you went this, that, and the other, whatever. But when there's trust, then, oh, did you go out? Oh, you spoke with a woman? You were hanging out with friends? Sure. Okay, so that's it.
So look, here's the thing on that right there. And there's people that get bent out of shape on people going out and this, that, and the other. And I get it. My wife's gone out with her girlfriends and she's been out and she stayed the night over at people's houses. Yes, even as a 50-year-old woman, she stayed the night over at other people's houses. It happens. It's one of those. I'm like, okay, got it, man. You're out. I got the house to myself. Fantastic. Go have a good time. Look, at the end of that, I know that she's coming back home to me. I know that she's married to me. She knows that I'm married to her. The thing is that if you do not allow the person to, it's like the kid having their hand in the candy jar conundrum. If you don't ever let the kid put their hand in the candy jar, guess what they're going to do? They're going to put their hand in the candy jar behind your back. And if you don't allow the other person to have the freedom to go out and do the things that they need to do, what they're going to do, they're going to put their hand in the candy jar behind your back.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So it's, I don't believe that a relationship should be based on a tight leash. You can't keep one another on tight leash. Usually when that happens, then you already know there's something wrong in the relationship. And then we get back to the appreciation, to the trust. Like, okay, you want to go out, have fun? Please do so. Yeah. And of course, maybe you need to consult one another. Okay, can we actually do it? But that's a whole different story. In the essence, there's still trust, and it's okay. And that's what I've been talking to other people. When you know that you are tiptoeing and you become aware that you're tiptoeing, when you are out with a partner, then you can bet that something is off. When you are, and when you go out with other people, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I can relax, and you become aware that that's normal. That's a big red flag, because then you know, like, hey, you're not supposed to be tiptoeing around your partner. You're not.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a lack of trust. I mean, if you feel like you're I call it walking on eggshells. So if you feel like you're walking on eggshells, tiptoeing, same thing. There's a lack of trust there. And what causes that? What causes you to feel like you can't do nothing? What causes someone to feel like they can't say something or do something or whatever the case may be? It's because you've lost that trust. And when you've lost the trust, it's hard to get that back. It truly is.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And the thing is, of course, you've been with your wife over 28 years. So But there are a lot of people our age who are single again and then get into a new relationship. All of us have experienced something. And when people come from a relationship where they've experienced abuse, then usually they are far more careful, and it's very hard to become trusting again of the other one.
Yeah.
And that, of course, makes
that's
things
the worst
difficult.
thing that you can do. That's the worst thing that you can do is compare one relationship to the next. And I did that, and I made that mistake when I was like 14 or 15, and I've never made that mistake again. But I'm telling you, when I was, how old was I? I think I was like 15 or 16. I was somewhere around 15 or 16. And I compared one person to the other, and oh my goodness, like the crap hit the fan when I did that. It was like, oh, you was better than so and so, and it was, because it was, it's like the infamous question, how was that? Oh, you were better than so and so, and I was like, oh my gosh, what a douchebag, kind of a
Well,
thing.
you're allowed to do that when you're still in your teens.
So the thing is, and I use that as an example to say like this: if you're traumatized from previous relationships, do not ever bring up your trauma from a past relationship in a current relationship. The thing is you will destroy your current relationship if you think that you're going to compare the two. It's apples and oranges. It's different. The thing is that if you have a new relationship, you know what that is? That's a fresh start for you, and it could be a fresh start for them. You're not tiptoeing, you're not walking on eggshells, but you have a blank slate. How you create that relationship is up to you. It's up to the two people in that moment. But don't ever compare your previous traumas, because what you're going to do is you're going to do one of two things. You're going to destroy the relationship. The person's going to walk away from you, or what's going to happen is you're going to create a situation to where there's verbal and then there's emotional abuse, which eventually could lead to some type of physical abuse. And just kind of it snowballs from there. It truly does.
Yeah, that's so true. And of course, when you talk about expectations, when you go compare the two things, then there are also expectations, and that's what's the tricky part. Because if you expect things to go wrong, and that's what you don't want, and that's why it's okay. It's okay to see things like, oh, I wasn't able to relax before. So when you compare those little things, like, okay, I can finally be myself again, that's good. That's okay. But it's not fair to put your expectations from someone who did this or something else on the other one. And then we get back to expectation versus appreciation. I loved it when you said that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I remember when I was younger, there was one relationship that I was in where one person, her and her mother, used to cook for me, and I loved that. And then I was in another relationship where that my partner and her mother did not cook for me. And I never said anything about it, but it was something that I was thinking about the other day. And I was in a conversation with my dad, and I was like, you know what? That person never cooked for me, but I didn't think anything of it. It was just one of those things. It was just kind of in a conversational type of a thing. But what the person did do that was differently was take care of me different. And that's the thing. You cannot expect everybody to take care of you the same way that everybody else does, because we all have different knowledge, skills, and experience that we bring to the table. And you have to allow the best of that to shine through. But if you put expectations on there, you will never appreciate it, and you will actually limit what you get versus what you feel you deserve.
Oh, that's true. And you can always ask about certain things. So if you're really appreciative of people cooking, you can always ask, how do you feel about cooking? And maybe the other one thinks, but you were always cooking, so why should I cook? I thought you'd like it better than I would. So then we get back to the conversation. So it's also about talking about things. So the other one actually knows what's going on in your mind. And that's the thing that's lacking quite often. We don't read one another's minds. It doesn't work like that. So sometimes we just need to express what we're feeling, what we like, what we don't like. And then you come to some sort of consensus.
Yeah, I love that. Look, here's the thing. You hit a key word right there, and that's reading each other's mind. I'm not a mind reader. If I was a mind reader, I'd be on a mountaintop with a line of people waiting to get up to have access to me, and I'd be paying $1,000 per person for me to read their mind and tell them their life story and what they should do next. I'm not a mind reader, and that's the reason why you should have open communication. And that's where it's look. You can sit here and try to guess all day long what I'm thinking. You don't know what I'm thinking. I could be laughing right here and smiling in front of your face, but underneath my breath, I'm saying, man, Lady Lexi is such a blah, 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 kind of a thing. But look, the thing is that if you never ask, you never talk, you never communicate, you're going to assume things. And when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. Assume, ass, you, me. And that's exactly what happens. So the thing is that I'm not a mind reader, but I'm a body language reader. And I can tell when, hey, are you okay? Kind of a thing. Hey, are you doing all right? Look, at the end of the day, if you've established a good enough relationship with someone, body language gives away the key. You and I've had this conversation before where we talked about the eyebrows being the most expressive body part that there is. If you really want to know how somebody feels, look at their eyebrows. But what other signals are there that you can tell that you're being given the cold shoulder? Somebody doesn't want to talk to you, that maybe they want to talk to you. Maybe you hit a trigger point and now they're triggered because of something that you said. Look, body language in a relationship is truly important.
Yeah, I totally agree. And here's the thing. If someone actually recognizes the body language and asks you what's going on in your mind, I can see you're sad or I can see you're not happy, then they open up the conversation for you to talk about it. And if there's something that's bothering you, whether it's about that person or something else that's going on in your life, then don't think that you cannot talk about it because they're actually asking you about it. And that's one of the things that I've noticed, that people can underestimate what the other one actually sees and feels and experiences, even though they don't say it. I sometimes say, you're insulting the other person's intelligence by not saying it, not answering it, lying about it, because they know something is wrong. That's why they say it. And they actually, when they put an emphasis on it by saying, hey, I can see you're not happy, or hey, what happened? Then you already know there's an opening there. Do something with it.
Yeah, and the thing is don't push. If somebody's showing signs, I don't want to use the word symptoms, but if they're showing signs of whatever it is may be, don't push. Know when to push and know when to pull. Here's what I mean by that. Knowing when to push is like, okay, look, something's bothering you and we need to get to the bottom of this because now it's bothering me, kind of a thing. Sometimes you have to push just a little bit in order or maybe nudge just a little bit. Maybe not push, maybe push is too harsh, but maybe nudge a little bit, just kind of eke in a little statement or a little word and see what type of a reaction you get. And if you get a reaction, maybe it does open up a door to a conversation. So you got the push, you got the pull, and you got the nudge. Here's what I mean by pulling back. Sometimes when you push and you get that body reaction, you're like, ooh, I need to back off. I'm not messing with that, kind of a thing. I don't want to get a shoe thrown at me or something like that. And sometimes, the thing is that people do not know how to read body language, so they don't know when to push, when to pull, and when to kind of nudge. I nudge most often. And when my nudge doesn't get through, then I know that I need to pull back.
Yeah, you can actually tell it by the way they react. It's sometimes it's a difference in sound. Someone, they say, yeah, and you're already like, yeah, okay, you're not agreeing with me. You say one thing, but you mean another one. So that's and what I like about the whole thing that you're saying is this is basically about being interested in the other person. You are interested in figuring out what's going on, and if the one person is ready for it, they will tell you, and if they're not ready for it, then you just let it go. But there is interest in, hey, how's the other one doing, and what's happening. And I do believe that when we're talking about loveless relationships or worse, there's no interest in the other one. The only thing the other one is like literally push, you're going to do this, that, and the other. They dictate, and they don't ask, how are you doing? They're just not interested.
So interested versus caring, I think that's a good conversation right there. Because look, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. There's a lot of things I'm not interested that my wife is doing, or my
Sure.
kids are doing, or whatever the case may be. But just because I'm not interested, it doesn't mean that I don't care. And I think that's a different conversation right there. Because look, if I'm making a correction, if I'm talking to you and I'm making an on the spot correction, I'm like, hey, you might not want to do that. It's like when we were growing up as kids, it's like, you might not want to put your finger in the light socket, kind of a thing. It's like, look, if I didn't care, I wouldn't say anything.
That's
Bottom
it.
line up front, if I didn't care, I wouldn't say anything. It was like, if I wanted you to get hurt, I wouldn't say anything. If I wanted you to go do whatever the case would be, and I knew that you were going, something bad was going to happen, I wouldn't say anything if I didn't care. That's the difference between being interested and caring. And once again, if I didn't care, I wouldn't say anything.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. It's actually showing what's going on with the other one, that you want to know about it, that you actually care. And of course, this is not just about sharing the same interest. It's also about being interested in the other one, as in, are you all right? Are you happy? Those kind of things. And you don't have to have the same love of music. It's just about, hey, are you doing okay? What can we do for one another in order to be more happy and fulfilled and grow in life?
Yeah. And
So,
sometimes that literally means giving each other space.
yeah, that can be so true. And again, when there is an abusive relationship, then 9 out of 10 times there won't be any space. Because they want to control whatever you are doing, and that's why I loved what you said earlier. Like, well, if she wants to go to her friend, stay at a friend's house, sure, she can do it. And then we get back to the trust versus control, and giving one another space. I do believe that it's when you give one another space that usually shows that it's a solid relationship.
You want me to tell you why people are controlling? It's because they don't trust themselves.
Oh yeah, that could be very true.
That's the reason why. That's the reason why people are so controlling, because they don't trust themselves. Remember, it's more about you than it is about them. And if I didn't trust myself, then I wouldn't trust somebody else with things as well too. Once again, it comes down to you, trust and control. Because if I'll give you a great example, I remember when I was younger, when I was in the military, I lost trust for a lot of different things and I wanted to control situations because I had some embarrassing things that happened to me. Once again, it was more about me than it was about the people. I didn't want to give people the freedom to do things because I didn't want to get burned again. Hey, I don't trust you. I'm going to trust but verify, kind of a thing. And it was one of those things that, once again, as I got older, I was like, you know what? That was completely unfair of me to do that, because that was a good person. And now I held this person back because I'm the one that got hurt. I'm the one that got burned. And I wanted to maintain control, so I didn't give control. And once again, that's the difference between trust and control. And that's when you've lost trust within yourself, because you gave your trust to somebody else. You got hurt, you got burned, and now you want to maintain control.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing. Like, what do you take into a new relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Because those things do happen, and well, it's important to actually, and I do believe that opening up about it, like, hey, I feel insecure about this, that, or the other,
Mm-hmm.
and not like you need to do this, but I feel insecure. That's a whole different ballgame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's still things that I'm insecure about. Even at my age, with my knowledge, skills, and experience, there's things that I'm insecure about. But look, you want to know the biggest way to get past your insecurities? Just do the darn thing. You're going to get a
Yes,
result,
sure.
and then you can figure out what that result is. You figure out, you've heard me say this. If that result is big, small, positive, or negative, it is in fact a result. Go ahead and take the action, get that result, figure out what went right, what needs improvement, modify, tweak, or change, continue taking action. But don't ever hold yourself back from doing something, because you know what? You'll never know what that result is if you don't ever take an action.
Yeah, and that's basically the not giving into fear.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and and and, and that's maybe the one thing that why are people in an abusive relationship, they I sometimes say you allow people to treat you like you allow them to treat you. So if you never say anything, if you never put any resistance in it, if you never act on it, then they basically can do whatever they do because they get away with it. And oh, you haven't said anything. Of course, they should have known. Of course, in a mutual relationship where you appreciate and love one another. But in another one, if you never stand up for yourself, and you become more and more fearful of whatever happens, yeah, that's hard, and that's I think that's the difference. People need to learn to gather the courage, talk to other people. How can I do it? And of course, it's hard to talk to other people when you are being excluded from everyone. Because then we get back to the whole controlling part, not wanting you to talk to someone else. But still, it's about, okay, needing an incentive in order to say, okay, I'm going to face my fear and I'm going to do it, whatever it is. Maybe just go out the door.
Yeah. So here's the thing. What you said right there is what you allow becomes the standard. And the thing is that, I mean, I walk past things all the time just because I'm not touching that. I ain't going to bother that. But look, what you allow becomes a standard. What you do not correct becomes a standard. What you do not say becomes the standard. And then that falls right in line with what it is that you just said. Well, you never said anything about that before. Well, it didn't bother me before. Now it bothers me. You know, the thing is that you need to understand something. We all learn, we all grow, we all evolve. Relationships evolve, people evolve. We all learn different things. You know, look at my bookshelf behind me. Look at all those books that are back there. I have a lot of knowledge, skills, and experience. I've got a college degree. I've taken courses. I've read a lot of books. I've created courses myself. I've written books myself. I've done all these things myself. I've evolved to a certain point. But just because I've evolved, does that mean that I hold anybody else to a different standard? Maybe not. But at the end of that, I can't hold somebody else to the same standard that I've put in the work to accomplish. And that's where empathy comes into play, because if you judge people based off of a weakness, you will never be able to understand their strength. Here's what I mean by that. What I mean by that is that there's people that are at different levels. We're all at different levels. I'm at a different level. Lexi, you're at a different level. People that are watching this and watching the replay, you are at a different level. But if you judge somebody from a place of their weakness, you will never get to experience their strength, because you will shut that person down based off of a premature judgment, based off of something. But look, at the end of that, what's the incentive? You know, you talked about incentivizing things, and I think that falls into a line with. Now, I'm going to use a big term here, and I'm going to use this loosely, and it's called capability development. Okay, capability development can be used in a wide variety of situations, even within a relationship. What is the capability that you want to develop within a relationship? Well, if you love the person, you're not going to judge them based off of their lack of knowledge, their lack of skills, their lack of experience. You will lift that person up. You will allow that person to shine for who they are and what they are. Because look, at the end of the day, I'm one person, my wife is another person, but you know what? We complete one another because we're exact opposites. We're not the same. And that's what makes us fit, because we're not the same. Because if we were the same, you know, and that's what people look for within relationships. They look for things that are the same. Oh, you're just like me. I love you. But that's oftentimes where you get into trouble, because there's nothing different about you. So you don't fit. And that's where, you know, me and my wife, we've been together for 28 years. We are the exact opposites. There's nothing about us that are the same. And there's differences, but we've embraced those differences because she brings her to the table. I bring mine to the table. And that's what makes it unique. That's what kind of incentivizes the thing. I love it when she cooks, because she brings, you know, her to the table. You know, when I cook, when I do things, I bring what I have to the table. And I think that when you allow that to shine through for what it is, instead of judging it from a place of weakness, you will appreciate what the other person has to offer.
Yeah, you say beautifully. It's the judgment versus, hey, I'm going to lift you up and I'm going to make you shine. And you know, for some people, understanding one another because they think in the same way absolutely helps. But I do agree that when you have two people who are good at separate things, and then when you combine it, you know, then we get the word synergy, basically. But
Yeah.
that's and that keeps things interesting and fresh, because they bring something else to the table, and it's like, oh, that's cool. Never thought about this. And it's just like musicians. One is good at singing, another one is good at drumming, the third one is good at playing guitar. But together you make the whole, and that's what makes the unison so amazing.
Yeah. That's a great point right there. And when it comes together synergistically and harmoniously, if you will, to coin kind of a music term right here, it makes beautiful music. But the thing is that, when you need the drummer, you need the guitar player, you need the piano player, you need all those instruments in order to make that beautiful symphony of music, that beautiful harmony of music. And the thing is that if you're both, how can I say this? If you're both kind of barking up the same tree, the bird's going to fly away. I'm going to say,
Yeah,
I'm going to
that's
say it
true.
like that. If you're both barking up the same tree, the bird's going to fly away. Well, what's the bird? The bird is the
Mhm.
opportunity to build something great together, the opportunity to bring what you have to the table and what you have to the table together. Once again, if you're both barking up the same tree, then the bird's going to fly away. You're going to lose that opportunity for love, for growth, for learning, for understanding, for all those different things that makes that, relationships beautiful. The things, the idea is that I had this quote a long time ago, and I'm going to put it to you like this: don't defeat me, complete me. And if you're going to defeat me, I don't want anything to do with that. Don't defeat me, complete me. It's easy for somebody to sit there and point out all the bad things, all the wrong things. Well, you don't do this and you don't do that. Don't defeat me, complete me. If you clearly identify a weakness, great. What is your recommendation for me to build that up to a strength? Don't just try to knock me down without trying to build me up. Don't defeat me, complete me. And I think that a lot of people don't understand that. They're just so hell bent on just identifying the things that are wrong that they do not try to offer advice for what they can do to improve to get right.
Yeah, and that's the one thing. I think the whole thing about a loving relationship is about completion, not about knocking the other one down, but seeing how can we make things constructive, learn from one another, and again we get back to the whole thing of appreciation, and it's awesome when the other one just smiles and is happy, and when you can do it, and you can figure out like, hey, so okay, something that I don't know, so how does it work? And then we get curiosity. So there are so many elements at play, which makes it a relationship you want to be in. And that's a good thing. But it's never about knocking people down. It's never about who's the best at something. Yeah, maybe just for competitive elements, every once in a while, but not when it's like you're never good enough, and just stomping on someone else. No, it's about building someone up, and literally completing one another. And that's why I love what you said about the bird, and what you said, don't defeat me but complete me. I love that one. So maybe
Yeah.
we should close with that one: don't defeat me, complete me. Because that's what you want out of relationship. And whether you stay together or not, when in the end you can say, we had a good time together, and maybe it didn't work out, but at least I can see how you've helped me, how you've supported me, how I've grown. And yeah, okay. And if you're in luck, you people stay together. And I always say I have to applaud the people who do.
Mhm.
But don't stay together just because you don't know what the outside world is like. Stay together because you want to work together, and have fun together and grow together.
Yeah. Exactly, 100%. It's all about the things that you can do together to lift one another up. Otherwise, you'll end up apart. Lexi, thank you so much for the opportunity to come in here and talk with you here tonight. I enjoyed our conversation. I know I only said I had a few minutes, but man, this was a great conversation.
Yeah, we're almost talking for an hour, so I totally love it. So, and I do think when we talk about why people are in a relationship is, I think we've touched upon a number of things, and one of the things that is the one thing that stands out is people don't know any better. They have
Mm,
no clue what it can be like, how they can support one another, and because they have no comparison, that's why they basically think, oh, this must be it. This must be love, because maybe they've never seen it growing up, when it comes to parents or to other relationships. And I do believe that people, they don't, how do you say it? When they are not, well, let's just keep it here. When they don't know any better and they haven't seen it. Oh yeah, that's what I want to say. The one who wants to be controlling usually sees it in the other person, like, hey, this is someone who is fearful, who's not certain, and then they like to prey upon it. Yeah, I was a little distracted because Joe wanted to come in, but Joe said I can't get the link to work, so and her camera to work. So, but I do believe that we actually had a pretty good conversation together, and I loved all the input that you gave me. And also the viewers, of course, who are out there. And I can't stress enough that it's so important to see one another for who you are and who you want to be, and to be respectful. Leave all judgment for what it is, but instead, embrace one another, and there should be trust. Give one another space to do what it is, and see how you can complement one another. Now, I know you something, and I'm going to let you in. This is so cool. So come up with your famous last words, Terry.
Awesome, Lexi. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be here today. Look, at the end of this right here, we unpacked a whole lot of different things. We talked about expectations, appreciation, open communication, lack of trust. We talked about traumatizing from previous relationships. At the end of that, the one thing that I want everybody to understand is that no matter where you are, there you are. But who are you? We are all a little bit of the things that we are from how we grew up. How we grew up, the places that we've been, the people that we've interacted, the people that we've engaged with. That is who we are. But that's not necessarily who we can become. And I think that when you find the right person, you can become so much bigger and so much better than what you have. And it's the combining of those two things, that yin and that yang. So like myself, me and my wife, we've been together for 28 years. It's that combination of those opposites that attract, that allows us to be who we are. And there's no judgments. There's no premature judgments. There's no, hey, you don't do this and you don't do that. There's no fighting. There's no arguing. I don't fight with my wife. I don't argue with her. She wants me to do something, I'm going to do that. She asked me to do something, I'm going to go do the thing. Look, at the end of it, you have to know when to put your pride and your ego on the shelf, because if you allow your pride and ego to get the very best of you, it absolutely, and 100% absolutely will. You must remain flexible and loving enough to understand that, you know what, no matter what somebody else is going through, you do not have to take that abuse. But if somebody is going through something, you need to understand that they are, and know how to pause long enough to understand, okay, something's off here. Something's not right. What is it? Have that open communication, have that sense of understanding, that interest, that care. We talked about interest, we talked about care. Have that sense of interest to really understand, hey, you're going through something, but because you're going through something, I'm not going to force you to go through something. And I think that's where a lot of people get in trouble.
Yeah, it's the open communication, what's going on, trying to understand why is someone acting the way they do. That makes all the difference.
100%. Yeah, it's one of those things that so many people are worried about what they can give or get, that they're too limited in what it is that they can give. And really, if you want to have the best relationship, it's all about giving and not getting.
Yeah. So Joe adds a little something. She said good words, and you need to be there for them. And that's so true. You need to be there for other people. And then we get back to conversations. So talking with one another, of course, as spouses, but also with your friends, just, figuring out how those certain things work. Because sometimes you don't know. And then reaching out to other people and figuring out, hey, I heard this and that. What do you think? And then you get back to the table and you talk to your partner and this was said, how do you think about it? But that's open communication, and it's okay, and you're still interested. Hey, what's going on? What made you react the way you did? So Joe said something, talking helps, but sometimes it's a lot harder than just accepting the help. It's not always as easy, and that's true. And then we just get back to being open. Are you willing to say, okay, something is off. I'm here. I don't know what to do. And sometimes people they're so afraid to be judged.
Yeah.
And then we get back to the whole judgment thing instead of being appreciated. And yeah, I guess it's also about, when you start speaking up and start speaking out, then you find out how people react and what they think about you. And they might not be open about it and say it, but there will be some sort of reaction. And that's the only way basically to learn, by speaking up and sharing what's going on. And of course, be curious and ask people about things. It's when you ask and share, that's when you know.
Yeah, I love that. Lexi, thank you so much for your time here tonight.
Yeah.
I do have to go, and man, it's such a great conversation. But man, we'll have to pick this up another time.
Yeah, we certainly will do. Well, thank you so much, Terry. And for those out there, if you need anything, any support, Terry is there, I'm there. And between the two of us, there's a lot of support we can give to everyone. And please go also to Terry's channel and look him up. So Joe says bye, Terry. So I'm going to say thank you for everyone who has been watching. Please leave a comment. And again, don't forget to go to Terry's channel. So Terry, what was your channel again?
Yeah, it's Terry Wade Thompson. So if you go to my website, terrywadethompson.com, you'll find everything about me right there on my website. All my social media, my YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, everything that I work on is on my website, terrywadethompson.com.
Are you done with the whole abuse thing? Are you done with the whole narcissism thing? Do you need some more courage to speak up? Then go watch that next video. Watch that next video. It will give you a better comprehension about what's going on in your life. Go there. Go watch it.